Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the team at MedTech Innovation and our partners Medilink, I'm delighted to welcome you here to the NEC to Birmingham for the 2022 edition of the show. MedTech Innovation Expo is the premier UK event dedicated to innovation and engineering in the medical technology space, and there's a huge range of innovation for you to all see at the show this year. On the show floor, you'll see almost 150 companies representing the entire spectrum of advanced technology, materials and solutions to help you through the design and concept stage through to design and manufacture. And there are many exciting focus areas this year. New for this year certainly is the Italian Pavilion, hosted by the Italian Trade Agency, and they're bringing together 18 of the country's top innovators in the medical manufacturing space. We also have a Mauritius Pavilion, which will showcase Mauritius as an attractive investment and business centre, as well as an international financial centre, I'm led to believe. One of the highlights, of course, is always the Medilink UK Pavilion, which will host a group of member businesses, a number of on the platform and also around the centrepiece. So that's something to look forward to. And finally, the Startup Zone, which is sponsored by Innovate UK, NIHR and SBRI Healthcare, with lots of innovation and new startups on there. But perhaps, as we're here today, the heart of our show, and probably arguably with one of our strongest ever lineups, is this programme that you're here to hear today. The MedTech Innovation Conference is produced in association with Medilink UK, and over the 2 days we'll have 15 in-depth sessions from various speakers, including Department of International Trade, Roche Diagnostics, Deloitte, and this morning Microsoft. So you're sure to leave with some good takeaways. Just before I go on, a word here about the curator of this conference, Costa. Costa, I understand you're retiring at the end of this week, sir, so not a bad programme to go out on. Thanks for all your efforts, and our very best wishes for your retirement. Additionally, we also have within the hall the health tech stage, with some really nice speakers on that one too. So lots and lots to see and do. Finally, I must extend my thanks to all the media partners and industry organisations that have helped us put this on, and of course our primary partner, Medilink UK, who have lent their support to the event across the year. So lots to see. Plan your time at the show wisely. Download the event app, review the programme, and most of all, enjoy a live event again. And I will now hand over to Kevin to take you through the rest of the morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Duncan, and thank you to Rapid News and MTI for their continued support and partnership in pulling this conference together, and also, of course, for the partnership for hosting our Medilink UK awards this evening. So as Duncan suggested, it is great to be back face to face and with exhibitions and conferences, and hopefully we will meet new people and do some good business. For those of you that are not familiar with Medilink UK, I could say that you need to get out more, but I won't. Medilink UK is a professional association which brings together at a regional level the NHS and social services, the life science business community, academia, and economic development agencies to drive innovation and internationalisation in the life science sector. We provide services, specialist services, to the public sector and also directly to life science businesses. So that's all I have to say. If you need to know more about Medilink, then please speak to one of our team on the pavilion. So as Duncan suggested, we've got a great lineup of speakers over the next 2 days. And I have pleasure this morning in introducing our keynote speaker, Helena Zaum. Helena is passionate about the positive impact which technology, sensitively applied, can have on communities and cities of the future. Technology embedded in the fabric and infrastructure of our lives should help improve our day-to-day experiences, but it must do so in a way which helps us build a strong sense of community with those around us and encourages a shared sense of ownership about our immediate environment and our impact on those further afield. Digital technologies can also transform our ability to deliver person-centered care and health in the community and at home. Helena's remit at Microsoft involves looking at how technology can help transform public services, particularly integrated health and social care. During her 10 years at Microsoft, Helena has worked in various public sector focused roles, working with a mixture of startups and major commercial organisations servicing the public sector, and with local government customers in the UK on their digital transformation activities. Prior to Microsoft, Helena managed a number of large change programmes and is well versed in the importance of the people side of change and transformation. And Helena will be speaking on the topic of creating innovative ecosystems for effective social care. Helena.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Kevin. It's lovely to be here today, and I'm also really delighted to see people in the audience who are excited about social care innovation, because that's a big area of focus and priority for me and for Microsoft. So what I'm going to talk to you about today really is, I suppose, some thoughts on how I think the industry needs to come together to support this really, really important area. Now, I think the public at the moment is going through a bit of a renaissance in its understanding of what social care is all about. But the reality is that, we'll all be old one day. Many people will have caring responsibilities who are sitting before me. You may also know and love people who live with disabilities. And so thinking about the opportunity for digital and for data to start to support people as they go about their daily lives, going to the supermarket, doing their shopping, going to work, this is what social care is all about. And ultimately, if we're going to fix some of the issues that we've got in the NHS in terms of patient flow and throughput and everything else, we have to start thinking much more carefully and proactively about social care. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Now, I wouldn't be Microsoft if I didn't talk to you a little bit about, some of the technical changes, digital changes that we've been through over the past number of decades. So, back in the 80s, when we were all wearing our shoulder pads, that was the time of the mainframe computer, which feels like a world away now to the very, very tiny devices. But that really triggered the beginning of a revolution in technology, and very much, I think has laid the foundations for the society that we live in today. So the 90s, brought accessibility. So Bill Gates said that, every home would have a computer on the desk. And, well, as I was wandering around in my DMs, that vision started to become a reality. In the 2000s, of course, the rise of the internet, not such an exciting time on the fashion front, but really the time when this revolution started to take root in society as we all started to become much more connected. The 10s, arguably really still the decade that is governing most of our kind of technology experience, was a decade, of course, of the mobile. So where that technology started to be out and about with us on terribly, terribly smart little devices that we now all can't live without. Also the decade of athleisure wear, so very much, the blurring of the lines of, work and life, and absolutely blurring the life, our physical life, if you will, with our online lives. And we see that trend absolutely continuing into the 20s, which we think will be the decade of autonomy. So very much the idea that the devices sort of understand what's happening for you, that things move around with you. Smart devices become prolific in a way that they're not quite yet. And certainly on the fashion front, and indeed I think digital has a role to play here, we will see, I think, a much more kind of green approach to how we think about life. So this might be a good expression of, our life as consumers, but, arguably it is not yet, we're a world away, probably still back in the mainframe / 1990s in terms of our experience of health and care, either from the point of view of, people or indeed practitioners and clinicians. So there's still a world to go before we can experience this kind of nirvana state in terms of our health and care. I love this quote. It's from a guy called Mark Weiser, who I think was chief exec of Xerox at some point. And he says that the most profound technologies are the ones that disappear, and they become so prolific that they weave themselves into your day-to-day life. You don't really even know they're there anymore. I think we're starting to get to that point as consumers, but, again, that's a world away from most people's experience of technology when they think about their health and care. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. It wouldn't surprise you to hear that the person from Microsoft is a bit of an optimist and an evangelist about technology. But we would also acknowledge that it can be taken too far. So, technology can do amazing things, but we need to ask ourselves not only the question, what can it do, but also what should it do? And I rather like this little cartoon here, describing perhaps a world where technology's gone a little bit too far. And clearly when we think about health and care, we need to think about the role of technology as an enabler for people to live independent lives on their own terms, not as something which is done to them, and not as something which is so extreme that it feels kind of unnatural. So I guess some words of warning as well. So what does nirvana look like from a kind of patient or a person's point of view? We talk a lot about people, by the way, in social care rather than about patients, because we want people to stay people and not turn into patients. Well, I suppose the ideal would be for an individual to have information from lots of different parts of the system that pertains to their health and care, all available and under their control. I think we can say we haven't got there yet. I want to draw your attention, and I don't know, is anybody here familiar with TLAP, Think Local Act Personal? And their work? No. Okay, well, I'm going to be their advocate today. So TLAP is a group of people who are living in part with disabilities or using care services, and they're having a very, very very important say in a lot of the policy agenda at the moment around social care and social care transformation. And their point is, don't design things that are about us without us being there. And some of the things that they have defined are some I statements about how they want technology to play a role in their world. And I think there's a couple of important statements here and a couple of thoughts for us as we think about innovating within healthcare or within social care. And I think quite honestly, social care is rather further ahead in terms of thinking about co-production, user-centered design, etc., than healthcare is. But what we as individuals want when we're in receipt of health and care services is that we can get hold of information, it's accurate, it's up to date, and it's provided in a way that we can understand. But also that we're in control of it, so we're in the driving seat. We get to say who it's shared with, and for what reason and for what duration. And so I really encourage you to look up TLAP, Think Local, Act Personal. They've actually got a load more I statements. I've done a little summary there. These are some of the most important ones. But I think this is the sort of world that we need to create when we're thinking about social and healthcare innovation. From a practitioner point of view as well, just to reflect on that as well, as we move into a world of integrated care systems, it's going to be increasingly important that we're able to share information across organisational boundaries and across traditional data silos. So if we want to deliver care which is personalised and which is anticipatory in nature, then we need to get our data act together, to be frank. And at the moment, and I'll talk about this in a bit more detail later on, data is very fragmented across the system. And as a result of that, the left hand, frankly, often doesn't really know what the right is doing. And so we foresee a world where integrated care systems will sit upon ecosystems of data. And that might be information coming from the person, so coming from some of the fab gadgets that you'll find outside. It might be self-reported information about how individuals are feeling on a given day, how their family and friends think they're getting on. It will certainly require information from people's homes, so smart homes devices, information about housing sufficiency. So, housing plays a really, really big role, of course, in independent living. There will be information from the third sector. There'll be things like the weather, which will matter if you're somebody living with COPD. And finally, but the bit that we, I think, quite rightly do get quite obsessed about in this market is the statutory information from the LICA or other shared record. And I think the reality is we're not going to get help to the people who most need it at the right time and allow them to remain people, not become patients, stay home, unless we pull all of this information together and unless we really, really start to spark a wave of innovation within social care. And I'm very excited to see a real rise in innovation in that space. But if it's a market that you're considering, then please go for it, because we really, really need some great innovators in the social care space. Turning this another way, so I've spoken a little bit there about kind of blurring of organisational boundaries. I think we need to also prepare for this on a functional level. I don't know about you, but all I hear about at the moment are virtual wards, which is fantastic. And obviously they represent a massive change and a step change opportunity really for the delivery of healthcare services. From a social care point of view, for many, many years we've had telecare services, many of which were analogue actually and still are, and there's a big change going on in the market at the moment. But I think as integrated care systems start to come together, we need also to see the sort of functional fusion of some of these previously disparate assets. And actually, the reality is, as people, as patients, we'll probably move our way up and down this pyramid if it's working well. So I think we can expect to see much more of that and a market shift, really, to start to harmonise some of these things. I'm guessing with some form of telehealth in the middle. It's a very simplistic representation, but again, I think it speaks to this blurring that I spoke about on the consumer front. However, there are, of course, a number of challenges, and there's some quite large amount of athletics required, I think, to get towards that kind of nirvana state. Because the current reality for most of us is that, we're all banging our heads against the brick wall as all of this information, this important information that could really help us to have a much better and empowering experience of our health and care is scattered all over the show. So we really need to work hard as suppliers in this market to support people and organisations to bring this information together. So what are some of the things that the market is grappling with? So the first thing is, if you are an innovator and you have a fantastic gadget, I put it to you that the information created by your gadget is 1,000,000 times more powerful when you place it in the context of other things that matter to that patient or that person. So context is everything in this market. And when we lock up data in data islands, then actually what we prevent the system from having is that context. Now, I know it's not an easy market in terms of where to monetize things, and it can be hard to monetize hardware, and therefore people often monetize data. But actually, when we lock that data up or place very, very big paywalls in front of it, then what we're stopping is that information being freely shared and combined with other information, which is so important when we think about delivering person-centric services. So we need to get innovative, not only in terms of the fantastic apps, gadgets and appliances that we can supply, but also around business models. I always tell my customers, whether they're ICS customers or local authority customers, to expect proliferation also. So, that not one device is not going to do everything. Alexa's great, but, there are some things she can't do. And so we need to expect device proliferation, and we also need to expect it because we can't afford to give the very most expensive devices to everybody. There just isn't the money in the system. So once again, from a practitioner standpoint, if I go off and commission a load of islands of data that come along with their specific piece of hardware, then all of a sudden I've got to have, my practitioners, my clinicians checking 20 different portals to see whose condition is worsening or whose frailty score is increasing and the like. And that's just not sustainable for the system. So this is why I'm so passionate about this idea of data ecosystem. So what do we need? The first thing we need, and forgive me for the gratuitous use of dodgy photos here, is agility. So as organisations, we need to get with the programme and support our customers to be innovative and agile in their use of data. We need to be inclusive when we're thinking about design, and Costa and I were having a deep and meaningful before we kicked off here in terms of the importance of making sure that we're co-producing and co-designing systems that really, really support the needs of different individuals, and recognising that they can be quite different depending on people's backgrounds. I mentioned before innovation. Social care is desperate for innovation. It's really ripe to take on that innovation, but we must not just innovate in terms of fantastic apps, gadgets and services. We need to innovate around business models to allow for information to flow freely about the system. And I know that that's not always easy to do. And finally, we need to think about making whatever gadgets and apps, etc., that we design as easy as possible for people to just pick up and use in the same way that we would enjoy that experience on an iPad. And I'm sure plenty of people have seen pictures of 3-year-olds getting around iPads. That's what we need as consumers of health and care tech as well. So Costa asked me to very briefly mention how organisations can work together with Microsoft. This guy is our CEO. He's a very, very inspirational man in a number of ways. One of the key things about the company since its beginnings was that we're a partner-led company. So we look for organisations that are using technology in their innovations, and Microsoft technology is even better. So if you're an organisation that has got some software as part of what you deliver, then please reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'd be really happy to try and kind of connect you up with the relevant people our side. So as I say, we're looking for innovators, and we very much see this as, I was going to say a virtual circle, but it looks like more like a virtual cloud, which I suppose also isn't a surprise for the Microsoft person to mention the cloud. But we very much see that when our customers are successful, when they're successfully using technology, that's good business for Microsoft, and it's also good business for the partner organisations that really make Microsoft technology sing. This is a horrible slide, but I just wanted to point out we have special programs for organisations, software companies, if you will. So we have a startups program, and then we also have a program for larger organisations that are software development companies. So I said we'd finish our session today with a bit of a discussion. So I'm hoping, maybe we can have a bit of a debate. If anyone's got any questions, then fire away, join in. Oh, there's one over here. Hello. Yes. Yeah, no, I think, just in case there were others who didn't hear, the data ecosystem point, and are there any instances where that's starting to work well? I think in terms of, we see some of those ecosystems already, but I'd say that we see them either contained within a local authority and not yet branching out properly into the healthcare world, and to a certain extent in healthcare. So there are seeds of hope. So the GP Connect capability is now being opened out to social care. I don't think it's ambitious enough in terms of that sharing of information between health and care. But I'm fortunate in another role I have as chair of the Tech UK Social Care Working Group to spend quite a lot of time with the NHS Transformation Directorate team, the social care folks, and they're pushing really, really hard because we need parity of esteem ultimately between these two different areas. I think the North East in answer to your question, is always a good place to look at in terms of, really starting to push the boundaries on that sharing of information. So I think they're an area that I would call out. A bit of that going on in the southwest, and actually I think if you look at the demographic and rural challenges that some of those areas face, I don't think it's a great surprise that that's where the innovation appears to be coming fastest. Any other questions? Thank you for that one.
Just very quickly, we did a piece of work looking at trying to extract data from healthcare systems and social care systems.
Yeah.
And the big problem was a lack of a single identifier for
Yes.
both the person in social care and health. It made it very difficult then to bring the two data sets together.
Yeah.
Is that a work stream within the programme you're leading on?
It's a really, so there is a Tech UK interoperability work stream that I think is addressing some of those challenges, so it might be a good idea if I connect you up with that. But yeah, no, absolutely hear what you're saying. And on the local authority / social care side of things, we spend an awful lot of time trying to work out whether Helena Zaum is Helena Zaum is Helena Zaum is Helena Zaum with, like different initials, and doing all of that data matching. So, I think you're absolutely right. And I guess just to sort of point around, around the whole kind of information sharing, information governance perspective, we absolutely feel that yes, there will be some kind of citizen permissioning capability that is required, but I don't think it will absolve us of the need to get really, really serious about information governance and information sharing agreements. I mean, again, that's one of the kind of COVID silver linings, was the alleviation around the COPI notices, hopefully, and I think in many areas that has now been sustained because people have just seen that it was worth it. But I absolutely hear you, and I think the interoperability working party is probably the best place to go for that. So happy to connect you up. If you want to find me on LinkedIn, I'll hook you in. Okay. Oh. Any more? No? Lovely. Well, in which case, thank you very much. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you all today. And I'll hand back over to Kevin.
Okay. Thank you, Helena. Great to hear that there are opportunities in social care for real innovation, not just in products and services, but also in the model. So really appreciate you taking time to be with us. And I know you're flying off to Germany immediately afterwards. So a round of applause again.